rehearse like what I would do, but I'm just like, we're just gonna freestyle it, you know. So yeah, I was trying to catch you where you were doing something, and I would say you're doing it wrong, and you would say what, and I would say life.
Yo, my world don't stop when the beats commence. Said I'm climbing up this ladder just to get over this fence and run far, far away from the games people play. In this melancholy modern day music, Malay, touche. Pussy cats with lives to spare that kick you know in your heart, nice as hell. Yeah, be aware, beware. I hate to see you less a liver or worse. Polar bear, winter time, catch the river. Now that's cold, and like that, now that's old. Didn't buy the last copy of this, now that's old. It's the pepper on your salt, my dudes, I grind it out. And the answers to the questions of life, I find it out. With that stress, I walk with access. Be he who Max says, with simple blackness. Cause in the end, God bless us, which is so profound. So I stick to my guns. Urban soul be the sound, and y'all doing it wrong.
What you talking about? Got me walking out. They ain't saying jack, never paying back.
That's gonna be my slogan. Like every time we get together, I would get somebody to be like, what? I would say, you're doing it wrong. And they would say, what? And I'd be like, life. But it didn't work as
it flopped
well as I thought it would. But nonetheless, I'm very excited to be here with you. Did you have something to say?
No.
Oh, you just looked at me like you had a comment.
I'm good.
All right, cool. Don't interrupt.
I didn't say anything.
You just made a look. Yes. I think I'm looking at the wrong camera. I'm very excited to be here again. My name is Brandon. I don't want to say my last name. It's not that cool. But if those of you who were with me last time, all 5 of you who listened to the previous podcast, I said I wanted to continue podcasting. Last time, I should have brought a copy of the book.
Nope.
Boom. I wrote a book, and this is the old copy, but whatever. And me, shout out to my brother Brent, shout out to my brother Jamel, and everybody else who tagged along. We did sort of like a podcast through every chapter of the book, just providing a commentary. And once we had finished that, I actually liked the medium of podcasting and wanted to continue doing it. But I was met with the dilemma with this 50 million podcasts out there. Like, why would someone want to listen to what the heck I have to say? So just trying to figure out what my topics would be or what I wanted to talk about. I don't want to necessarily do pop culture because so many people do pop culture, and I don't want to do sports because I feel like that was oversaturated. So I was trying to see what my strengths I don't know. See what my strengths are and try to expound on that and create a podcast about my experiences and things of the such. I thought one of my strengths was, and it's going to sound really weird, but that I thought I was self-aware, and self-aware in the sense that I could admit my faults. I think that's a huge problem that people have today. They can't acknowledge their faults and flaws, and not just to highlight them for the sake of highlighting, but highlighting for the sake of growth. And so I just wanted to have just real, genuine conversations about life. And I think the thing that makes what I'm doing unique is that I'm coming from, I guess you can call it a biblical worldview, but I also didn't want to be preachy or anything like that. I wanted to show that being a Christian or a believer is just not something I do on Sundays, but it filters in every aspect of my life, whether it's fatherhood, parent, work. My worldview affects all aspects of life, and just trying to display that and let people see that. And so I came up with the title, You're Doing It Wrong. And though it sounds, as someone told me, pejorative, and I think I looked it up, and it was like that it could offend people or something like that. I don't know. but it's not a rebuke against other people, but a rebuke against me. And I just didn't like how I'm doing it wrong or we're doing it wrong sounded. That just sounded trash. So I said, you're doing it wrong, but it's more self-reflective of me. So the format of the podcast is going to be monthly. So that's one of the things that I learned about doing the podcast before. I tried to do it weekly and I knew that wasn't going to work. So I was like, let me just do it once a month, try to up the production. So if you notice, we're in the same room, but the lighting is different. The cameras are different.
Fancy.
Got this really cool photo here that we got from New York. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but whatever. So yeah, try to step up production and just essentially create content. If anyone knows me, they know I will much rather be behind the camera, but I feel God is certainly pushing me to this in this direction. So just trying to be faithful and be obedient to God, but at the same time, kind of terrified in the process. Like I said, going to be coming from a biblical worldview, and needless to say that I'm a Christian, but I also went to school for it. So I got a bachelor's degree in biblical studies, got a master's of divinity, and currently I'm at Southeastern working towards a doctorate. But the catch is I don't want to be a pastor and I don't want to be a teacher. So it's like, oh, what the heck am I going to do? So just trying to figure that out and wondering how am I going to support my family. By the way, I have a wife and daughter. That's who was commenting and making sounds. Both of them. I'm sure you could hear my daughter too. Well, not that you were just making noise, but you were, saying stuff. And people who's listening may not know what the heck that voice was. But you can also watch on YouTube as well. But like I said, so we're just going to be discussing just a myriad of topics every month. Going to have I don't want to call it a panel of guests, but just people I have friends and people who I've come across in life. And I also want to have people who don't share the same worldview as me as well. I think that's one of the things those in my worldview do wrong. We have a lot of conversations in-house, but the whole point is to go out into the world. And I don't think we do a very good job of that, myself included. So I want to have people on the podcast who don't share my worldview and just have conversations and really also foster this idea that just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean you hate them. So it's just want to have a myriad of things, but at the same time, I want to inform, but also have fun with it too. I don't want it, like I said, I don't want this to be preachy or anything like that at all. I like to think I have somewhat of a sense of humor, and try to bring that out because usually I'm more reserved and quiet, but I think I make my wife laugh sometimes. When you agree? Sometimes. See, there you go. So I wanted to just have a real laid back, relaxed feel. You guys get to know me. And like I said, I just want to be just very honest and transparent and as vulnerable as I can, because I don't do everything right. And I think it's fitting that I have my wife here on the first episode who can bear witness to that. But I did want to, I don't even hear what you said, but it's cool. I did want to discuss the cover art. So in coming up with this idea of you're doing it wrong and just seeing all like the behind the scenes work that goes into it, I had to create new cover art. And so since the whole idea is just trying to have life conversations and things like that, it's like, what could encapsulate life for me? And I was like, sitting at home watching TV with my family. And so I'm going to try to put it up for those watching on YouTube, what the actual picture looks like. But it's just me, my wife, and my daughter sitting on the couch all on our electronic devices. I'm on my laptop, she's on her phone, and my daughter Autumn, she's on her tablet. And I thought it was a really cool idea because it demonstrated that we were close in proximity, but as far as just being emotionally connected, we definitely are. And I think that's one of the areas that we need to work on, or I'll speak for myself, just being there but not being there. That's one of the things, getting married, that's a huge misconception that you're always going to be around your spouse and everything like that. And I'm trying to find this picture because I wanted to get your thoughts. And let me say this before I forget. I want to, even though my wife is here, so it might seem silly, but I want to give you a big shout out because I feel like you've always been there, helping support my ideas, no matter how, like, I don't want to say lame, but I remember when I was coming up with the book and thinking of ways to like promote it, and we did like somewhat of a trailer, and we were still in Virginia, and we went downtown, and we were like spending like hours just recording and stuff, and like you never complained.
I forgot all.
And I don't even know if I put the video out, but I was so. It's on YouTube, but I haven't like been like, ooh, check out what I've done. But you've always been there to help and support. So I definitely wanted to say that before I forget. But I did want your thoughts on the picture because, like I said, I thought it was a cool idea trying to, encapsulate, and I've got it. I think I've changed it a little bit, but. Just trying to, and the other thing about the picture is like I've got my my blanket on, and my wife says I look like a Muslim woman, but it's cool. But that's literally life for us, just sitting on the couch, watching TV or on our devices, and as convicting as that is, it's like a reality, and just wanting to be open and honest because so many people have this picture of marriage where it's just like, I don't know what the word is, but they just have this fantasy view of marriage, and it's like you get busy, and it sounds bad to say, but I think I've definitely just gone into like coast mode and not realizing that I don't necessarily call marriage a job per se, but you do have to put work into it. And I think so many people don't realize that. It's just easier to not engage with one another, but to be, on the phone. And so even like this, like sitting down, having a conversation where it should be like something we do on a regular basis and not something that we're just doing to record a podcast. But if we weren't doing this, we would probably, I don't know, what came on today? Or what came on yesterday? 911?
Yep.
You probably watching 911.
Yeah, I didn't watch it yet. I didn't watch it yet, so don't say anything.
And not that I'm saying there's anything wrong about that, but it's just easy to get in the motions and just take the other person for granted. And so I thought the cover art kind of encapsulated that, and I wanted just to expound on it. But even when, because you're the one who took the picture, like you didn't even like challenge my creative, I don't know. What do you call it? There you go. My creative vision. You kind of like went along with it. And I never really asked what you thought about it. But I am kind of curious, and I don't know if I've done a good job clarifying what I want to do. So today, in talking about the podcast, You're Doing It Wrong, the topic or per se will be marriage. So the next one that I want to do is racism, and I know it's like over. I don't know. Like people talk about it a lot, but I wanted to talk about it from a different perspective. Like usually when we talk about racism, we talk about it from an American lens, and it's usually just black and white. Or if we include someone else, we say, black and brown, but the brown people never get, a voice. So I have a friend who was born in India and was raised in Saudi Arabia, and that is my daughter banging on the wall. I
think she hears your voice.
No idea what she's doing, but yeah, look at her, like wilding. And then I have another friend from Florida who's Cuban. So each month we're just gonna have just like a particular topic and just view it from a different lens, but just be open and honest and just talk about how we've done it wrong. So for today, talking about marriage. So the picture or my cover art for it, and knowing what I'm trying to do, do you think that fits the message that I'm trying to convey? Or what were your thoughts on the cover art? Because like I said, I never really got your opinion. Oh, by the way,
she definitely.
This is
right. The
my wife
has a name,
Mylina, who I have failed to introduce.
Right?
But
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm Mylina. I go by My, but
not Mylinda or.
Oh, there's a long list.
Yeah, of names people have called you.
But no, I liked what the cover art conveyed. I honestly, as a photographer, I'm like, we could have done this differently or whatever. But I like that. I mean, it's real. That's been us several nights. And I think, like you were saying, that it's easy to get stuck in this like cycle of just, go to work, come home, get on your devices. You might kiss your family goodnight, but there's not a whole lot of like interaction.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a tough thing to balance between making sure that you're present emotionally. And I mean, we both work full time. We got side hustles. We're trying to raise our daughter. It's just, there's a lot that goes into a marriage that you don't really think about until you're there. There's a lot that it's hard to prepare for in like premarital counseling or whatever. But I think the cover art was perfect for what you're trying to do.
Oh, that means a lot, because I feel like you do have strong opinions, and you would definitely tell me like, yo, this is trash. I'm pretty sure you hate my edit, but it's cool though. We didn't like watermark
right
anything. And before we get there, so like I said, on the YouTube video, I'm gonna try to highlight the cover art so you guys can see what it is. But that's literally life for us. So trying to get better at that, and like my wife said, just it's not easy. And for context, and I guess we'll go there. We've been married 6 years, going on 7. So not that we're, by any means, vets or whatever, but we've been doing this for some time, especially compared to the people that we're around, and it was certainly refreshing. I don't know if you remember, like Elder Belt was just talking about his marriage, and they've been married for several decades now, and how often they get it wrong. So you realize that it's literally a journey. And what was that? Edits.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Are you sure it turned all the way off? It's not still recording or anything? Is the battery dead?
No. this shit off. Whatever.
There is probably a setting in the menu for it to stay on for a certain amount of time. So you're cutting all this out, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not being interesting. Also, I feel like you're talking much louder than I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Were you trying to motion for me to sit up? Or no. Okay. I tried to like lean in closer to the camera.
I don't know how to stop that from happening.
You fell into a weird speech pattern.
I did.
Yeah, where you take forever to say what you're gonna say, and then you say, "Yeah, so we're gonna do this and this," and I feel like you're super loud. But I don't want to make you self-conscious. I just want to let you know that I don't know where that came from because you don't normally talk like that.
Oh man!
And you definitely have like a radio voice.
You think so?
Yeah, you're louder and you have more bass in your voice.
Oh, am I sexier?
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
I mean, that was, but
All
you're
right.
normal.
You don't have to clean it up. It's
Okay.
cool. So I don't know how I'm gonna edit this, but whatever.
You gonna clap again?
Nope. I don't know what the heck I was talking about, but
You're talking about us being.
oh yeah. Elder about elder at our church. Just talking about how he's been married for quite a while, and just how I don't necessarily say it doesn't get easier, but it's not the state of arrival. And like I said, it still fits into this idea of you're doing it wrong, where I think as humans, we think we're going to arrive. We're going to come at this point where it's like, I've got it all together. Because that's what I was like saying, you're doing it wrong. And when you usually say that to somebody, they say, what? And my response would be life, because we think we can master life and we can't. There's never going to come to a point where we've got it all together. And I think most people can't admit that. But before I go any further, I think it would be cool just to let the people listening know a little bit about us, because even though we've been married 6 years, you knew me when I was a teenager, and you're a year older than me. You robbed the cradle. So yeah. So just let the people know a little bit about us, because I don't know if you'll be back on. So, but yeah.
What are you trying to say?
I might have you come back on, depending on
First
how
of
you
all, I didn't rob the cradle because I'm only a year older than you.
do. But you was 20, I was 19.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, what am I supposed to say? Stuff about us?
You wanted me to tell the story, but I'm gonna let you tell it. Yeah. So I'll start you off. Sociology class. Continue.
So we met in sociology class, and I saw you from across the room. I was like,
Excuse me?
Who is
No, I'm sorry.
this light-skinned boy?
Oh boy, I was a grown man.
No, you're definitely a boy.
Okay.
No facial hair.
Continue.
So man, I hate telling this story.
Because you sound like a creeper?
Yeah. So
Hey,
saw you
that's
from
why I want you
across
to
the
tell
room, relocated my seat to like directly behind you. Just to, get some eye candy in the class,
Ooh.
had to stay awake. But so then I remember one day we were having a discussion about dating, and our teacher was talking about how dating, your perspective on dating would vary based on where you grew up, or like what type of, community you were in. All that affects your perception. And so she had us get into small groups and just talk about dating, what it meant to us and what it looked like for us, growing up. And so I remember that your answer in your group was dating is for marriage. And so, of course, at first I just rolled my eyes because he was giving the church boy answer. But I was intrigued that he was a black man. And decided to stand up in front of the class and say
Did
that.
we stand up in front of the class, or just in our group?
Yeah, well, actually, you didn't do the standing up, but I'm pretty sure they called you out and said, like, who said that part of it or whatever.
Okay.
Which I'm sure you turned red. But so from then I was like, well, I don't know. I guess I mostly wanted to see if, like, what you said in class matched up with your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a little research. Started on Facebook, of course, and saw we had a lot of mutual friends, and I asked them about you to see if your walk matched your talk. And for the most part, well, really nobody had anything bad to say about you. Some of them said you were lame, but nobody.
What's their name?
That's water under the bridge. But so what I didn't know was that one of our mutual friends the good thing is that was this one. Yeah. There's got to be a setting on there that you need to adjust. I did not enjoy being put on the spot with the story, which is why I did that whole jab about me and ish. Bro, I'm so nervous. I don't like this. There's your daughter.
So once again, this is a 2-man operation where I'm doing AV, well, audio and visual, and the cameras keep going out. I have no clue why. So I'm going to have to try to use my editing skills to try to figure something out. I don't know.
Really keeping this in there?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I think you definitely cut this. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So little did I know that one of our mutual friends decided to just put me on blast. Just went up to Brandon and told him that I liked him.
Dang, you remember that? It was like in the cafeteria, right?
I wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't?
No.
I thought you were.
No, that's why she had to point me out to you later.
You talking about
Morgan?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were there.
I was there and had no idea the conversation was happening. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you knew.
I mean,
I was with Tiffany, and we were like, "What?" Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, I didn't know I was there. Anyway, so yeah, I think after that you were in some picture with another one of our mutual friends, Kiera. And I commented on it, and then you added me as a friend on Facebook, and we started messaging, and that was it.
And what was the first thing you said to me when we met? Do you remember that?
When we met so that's another part of the story.
I was trying to help you out. But.
I ended up switching the section of my class to the same time that you had it.
Yeah, it was a different class, not sociology. She was a stalker, but it's cool.
So then that was like the first time that you spoke to me when we were walking back from that class, because it ended at like 9 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. And I remember you were like, I don't remember what you said to me, but I was like, that's your voice?
Yeah, that was the first thing you said to me. What was wrong with my voice?
It just sounded soft.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah. Need a little bass.
Now look. Go ahead. You're here.
Oh.
10 years.
I thought you were saying that you got some bass in your voice.
No.
But I guess I just...
That I've got you. That's what I was saying.
I guess you didn't need the bass after all.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the story.
So riveting. No, one of the things that I remember about that story was, So I was born and raised in New York, Brooklyn. And my parents moved to North Carolina right when I was about to go to high school. So I went to high school in North Carolina, and God was working on my heart. My parents, we would go to church and stuff, but it was just something that you do. But they had, my mother had introduced me to the Left Behind series. And if anyone knows anything about those, they're about the rapture, and it scared the crap out of me. And so I was like, yo, I don't want to get left behind. So I thought if I did like a couple moral changes, that would, mean I would be a Christian. Now that I've grown and mature, I realize that it's embracing the gospel is what saves you. But nonetheless, I think God was working on me. But all throughout high school, like, the girls did not like me at all.
I think it was your voice.
It could have been. But I was determined, number one, not to go to a public college. And so I found this Christian university in Virginia. That's all I'll say. And I'm happy about my experience going there. And it was cool. And my mind state in going to college was, it's not going to be the same experience as when I was in high school. I'm going to get me a girl. And so I was definitely, super thirsty. And it was eye-opening because I would run into girls and just be physically attracted, but it's like not know anything about them and their past. And it's just like, oh, what am I getting myself into? And just realizing that there was a lot of stuff that people went into, and you're just so focused on the superficial and not really wanting to know a person, that I was met with reality real quick. And then I remember one time I had I don't know if it was a mission counselor. They just said something that was like just super practical. They was like, you don't want to marry someone who has a whole bunch of debt. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And so I think from that point, I stopped being super thirsty and kind of chilled out. And it was right around that time that you came along. And so it was just really weird how God had worked all of that out, that I was always looking for someone. And then once I stopped, someone came my way. And it's crazy when you look back, because I believe you were working at McAdoo's, right? Remember those times?
Oh yes.
And it's just crazy to think this is like almost 10 years ago, and we would have all these times of just I remember my friend Billy used to tease us because we would just get a chair and table, and
He used to tease you.
Well, yeah, he did.
Macking all the time.
And will we watch Everybody Loves Raymond or something like that?
Yeah, he put me on.
Yeah, I put you on Everybody Loves Raymond. And we would just sit there and talk. But because I know so many people who are looking for relationships be like, how did you know that was the one? How did you know that I was the one for you?
I think for me, the main thing was time. Cause so I see a lot of relationships where people are together for a year and then they get married, which I feel like is a lot more common in Christian circles than not. Just people being in a rush to get married. And for me, when you proposed, we had talked about marriage, but I wasn't it was something that was more on your mind, I think, than mine. Because I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to major in. And I think when I met you, I had just declared a major in psychology that year. And I was a junior. Yeah. So I was still trying to figure out what life was going to look like for me, let alone having a husband and stuff like that. Those were things that I wanted, but it was just down the road. And my parents didn't get married until they were 30. So I wasn't even I wasn't even trying to do the whole ring by spring thing or whatever. But I think that actually, I forgot the question.
How'd you know
Oh, yeah.
that I was
Okay.
the one?
So, yeah, it was time. I think seeing you in different situations, like I said, I started out doing my research. So, hearing all those people have consistent things to say about you, seeing how you interacted with my family, and seeing you when I was looking rough. I know we did a lot of late nights in the study hall or whatever during finals week, and like you would make sure I ate and drank something, and you would just hang even if you didn't have work to do. You've been faithfully there, and I think that has just been like a constant thread. You've just been my rock, and I mean, I saw hints of that before we were married, but it's been confirmed over and over again after we got married. When I lost my uncle, and I mean, I didn't even have to say anything to you. My family called me, and it was like you could read the look on my face, and you were just there. You knew that I just needed you to hold me, and I think the fact that you go out of your way to take care of me. That's something that you've pretty much always done. I do remember that first night that we walked back to the dorms and you walked me back to the bottom of the stairs. I could have gotten taken or anything like that on the 2 flights of stairs I had left. But, you know.
You had done it before without me, but okay, never mind. Continue.
I think that was your last stage as like a fair weather.
But that was the first time we met, though. So it's like,
but still, that's when you want to make the good impression, though.
But I didn't want to scare you either, so I don't know. I don't know why I didn't walk you.
I had to walk through the men's dorm.
But I had walked you pretty far.
It doesn't matter.
I probably didn't want to walk up them stairs.
That's probably what it was.
It's like, nah.
But aside from that infraction, I think the fact that you've just always been there, and I loved that we could talk about whatever. Mm-hmm. And over the years, I've definitely seen how your ability to forgive me and love me in spite of my faults has been, it's what's kept me going. That support, it's something that so our wedding song, Never Knew I Needed.
Oh yeah, not one.
Yeah. I chose that song mostly because of Neo, but that I think rings true of our relationship, of our marriage, because I mean we weren't looking for each other, but I mean season after season it shows that I needed you, and I mean I've messed up, I've made big mistakes, and you've loved me through them. You've confronted me about them, not just like ignored it and pretended that everything was fine. Because I think that is an unhealthy relationship if you can't confront one another. But I was messaging about this on Instagram before, that your love for me really mirrored what my understanding of Christ is. It's not perfect, but it's evident that that's what you're aiming for. That you've been the type of person to me that I would want to emulate in the way that I love you. In looking past your shortcomings, or if you, I don't know, forgot to do something I asked you to do 15 million times. But to love you each time and each day, really, because we mess up often.
You know, it's super funny that you brought up that comment that you wrote on one of our someone we know's, it was an Instagram story. Mm-hmm. And so you were showing it to me, but I had no clue you had wrote it. And so apparently there's like this thing on Instagram where you can like ask a question in your story and someone can like just respond to it. And so you were showing me, he was like, hey, had I seen this person's story? And I was like, no. And so you showed me, but they had like multiple stories of people answering the question. And so I was like scrolling through it. And like I had saw a post that was like super long and I just like ignored it. And I went to the ones that were much shorter. But the super long one was you. And you were saying like something really, really nice about me. And I was like, oh, really bad.
Almost missed out on your blessing.
Which is crazy because it's like, we need to do podcasts more often because you were saying like really nice stuff about me. But even though you say all those things, I remember like we had several conversations. I remember two in particular, where we were talking about needing each other, and clearly no one can meet everyone's need, but I think just on a human level, your spouse should be the one to meet your need. And I think you were telling me that you felt like as if you didn't think I needed you. And I think it stung, but I think there was an element of where I had to be real with myself because like I was saying earlier, it's easy to take your spouse for granted. And I guess if I have to be honest, that there's times where I've taken you for granted, or rather it's much easier to critique you than to say something positive, where it's easy to focus on the negative as opposed to the positive things. And that's one of the things with marriage, where you're in close proximity with someone and you get to see all of them.
Yep. Those flaws on blast.
And it's so easy to focus in on the stuff you don't like. And that can just easily just build up and build up and build up. And it was like, dang, for you to say that you felt as if I didn't need you, like it hurt, but it was like, I think it was something that I had to check myself, where, not to say that I don't put you as a priority, but I don't want you to think that I'm necessarily self-sufficient without you. And that one was unique to me. And then the other one, conversation that it wasn't really a conversation, just a comment, because you're just known for being mad random. You asked me like, do I pray for you? And I was like, well, I'm a Christian. No.
Doesn't answer the
question. But I remember being in school and like we would have these people come at convocation and like their application would be read the Bible more, pray more. And like I would hate it because it was like such a like, oh really? I need to read and pray more. But as you get older, you realize how important those things are, where most of the times I'm only picking up a Bible is just for schoolwork, or even praying when I need something, and not just being very disciplined in those areas. And like you said, someone from the outside looking in would be like, oh, Brandon, he's got these degrees, and I've been fortunate enough to preach at my church, and that has like some stigma, but it's like, if you were able to see life with me, it's like, it's far from the truth. That's only by God's grace that I'm able to do all those things. But it's like, just even in everyday life where it's like, yeah, I love Jesus, I love the gospel, but how often does my life actually reflect it? And I think the truest example is within your marriage. We're called to, husbands are called to love our wives as Christ loved the church. And it's like, I don't know how Jesus did that, because it's like it sounds really cool, it sounds poetic, but it's far from easy to truly love someone unconditionally. Like, and it sounds crazy to say. Go ahead.
So not only that, but there's a verse in Philippians that talks about washing her with the water of the word. And I think husbands are called to such like a huge responsibility. And I think that there's a lot of like, even in the push toward, so we went to a Christian school, even in the push toward marriage and like all the talk in Christian circles about finding, what do they even, I mean, they don't say soulmate, but whatever they call it. Yeah, sure. Finding a good thing, whatever, finding your spouse. There's all this talk about like making sure she's a woman of the word and she's a woman of prayer or whatever, but there needs to be more preparation for being the spouse, for knowing how to lead your family in the word, and to not just give that public impression of having it all together, but to actually making sure that you're right with your spouse and that you're actually on the same accord, whether it's spiritually or just having the same goals and being on the same page financially. Like there's not a lot of prep, I think, that goes into marriage in general.
Yeah. I think, like, I don't know if, I'm sure we've said this in the past, like the emphasis is certainly always on the wedding day.
Yes.
You know, like that's such a big promotion, which shout out to those who can have big weddings, but it's like the investment should be in the marriage, you know, making that last. Because it's like, just, and I'm sure you've got friends who just like covet marriage, and like, even for me, it's just like, I believe even before I was a Christian, I always wanted to be a husband and be a father. And now that I'm a husband and a father, I realize like how terrible I am at it. But
not that bad.
Right. But just like wanting those things. And now that you have them, it's like, it's just the beginning, you know, it's
and
like.
That's the thing too, because you talked about like arriving. And I know when we first got married, I like that year plus of engagement that we had, I think I stressed myself out about like, okay, well now I need to make sure that I can cook and clean and do all these things that a good wife does. And I mean, by those standards, I'm still not a good wife. So I think for women, I can't speak for men, but I think for women, there's a ton of pressure. And I've never been a cook. I know, I mean, you don't have to shake your head like that though.
I didn't think you could see that.
But there was this whole like idea that I was already kind of starting off less than. But then also, I think in that first year of marriage, I honestly, and I don't know if we've actually talked about this, but I remember being in the kitchen.
Which one was it?
Oh.
That one. Yeah, I gotta find out what the setting is.
Yeah. Now?
No.
Huh.
I don't remember where you were. Sorry.
I do.
Oh.
Okay, go now.
Good.
I remember being in the kitchen and seeing you on the couch playing video games, and I was washing dishes, and I was like, what did I get myself into? Like, why did I marry this man now? Like, I remember I was just like...
Was that last week?
I remember I was like overcome with that feeling. Not that I was about to like head out the door or anything like that, but I was like, why did we get married so young? Why didn't I wait for him to like mature? Why didn't I make sure that he knew that he should be washing dishes too, that this is just not my job? I remember thinking all those things, and like, I am the best, looking at it from a positive. I'm the best at holding grudges.
Oh,
so
what?
So like, I would let that build up, and like every time that you did something wrong, it was like, see, I knew I shouldn't have. Like, I knew we should have waited, or that part of me felt like we jumped into marriage because I didn't realize that he would be playing video games while I was cleaning up, or I didn't realize that he would leave hair in the sink, or what. I don't know what it was, but I think for me it took realizing like I have issues too. Like it's really easy to be selfish when you're single because you don't have to. Nobody's there to check you. You do things your way. Toilet paper can go over, under, seat can stay up or down, whatever. But I think, like I said, over that time where you've seen me make mistakes, you've seen me spend money on dumb stuff, and like it would be on the credit card. So we'd both have to pay it back because it's a joint account. You've seen me mess up like that and have, I don't want to say have stayed because I think that's a cop-out. Because we've already committed our lives to each other. But you've reacted or responded in a way that I should have responded to you instead of grumbling under my breath or wishing I could leave, which I didn't wish I could leave. But I remember internally complaining about you, though. I remember having to just have a conversation with the Lord in my head so that I could get my whole mind right because I was just so annoyed with you. And I think that, like I said, that goes into the prep for marriage, that we have to have a whole mindset shift, that it's not about me. And you say all the time, marriage is about your holiness and not your happiness. Or I think you say that it's not about your happiness, it's about your holiness. Sorry.
Get it right.
But I think that if as a single person, you focus on that, not that you can't pursue holiness until you're at that state of marriage, but marriage is not the end goal. Wedding day is not the end goal. It is a transition. That's it. It's a new chapter, a new chance, a new ministry, it's a new chapter. It's a new experience, a new time to experience God's grace in your life and to be able to be a vehicle of that grace for the other person. And I think that because we're so focused on getting engaged, getting the rock, having your wedding day, we completely ignore the prep work that goes into being married. And I mean, I'm a wedding photographer, so I understand, wanting to have a beautiful wedding day and beautiful images from your day. And I mean, with all of my couples, anyone who asks me, really, I'll say like, make sure that you're still dating in your engagement period because it goes so fast. And I think that the more time that you're spending together and not, just wedding planning, using your dates to, go over guest count and things like that, I do not advocate for that. But having real conversations about what life is going to look like after you're married, just doing fun activities that you like to do together aside from wedding planning so that you're really still connecting that whole time. Because I think the engagement period is such a unique time. Like, ideally, you're only going to be engaged once. There's only one period of time where, people are excited about this upcoming chapter of your life and and that's funny too. I think definitely after we were married, I kind of felt like kind of a, not a withdrawal of support, but it was like, as soon as you're married, everybody asks how married life is, but it's that superficial, like, oh, they're probably in the newlywed phase and like everything's roses and rainbows or whatever. And we had our first married fight like right after we got back from the honeymoon.
That's hilarious.
Do you remember that?
I do. I was about to say it. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah.
What was? I guess I'll tell it. So, like I said, just being in front of the camera and my mind is going all over the place. Like, I hate social media. Like, if you look at my posts and it went out again. Like, yeah, you're doing it wrong, just AV guy.
Am
Goodness
I
gracious. No, you're fine.
Okay. I feel like I'm kind of veering into a different direction than what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's fine. There's no structure. Gosh, it's gonna be a nightmare trying to piece this together. Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of social. Like I feel like I'm an old person in regards to that. Where like if you look at my social media, the last thing I probably posted was like last year January. Basically because I just sit at home. But I'm not the social person. That's why I'm like I can't be a pastor or anything. Like people would not like me. But as soon as we got back, like you wanted to like post that we were back. And I was like, bruh, no. Like people don't need to know that we're back. And I don't know, just for me, it's just like, not that people would have been calling me because they probably would have been like bugging you. And so I guess I was like, why you want people to know where you at? Just enjoy being home. And it like sounds crazy. Like now that I'm thinking about it, because I'm like, they would have just been bothering you, not me. Like, I don't know why I was so pressed about you not posting that we were back. Because what you just gonna like make a status or something? Like, I don't know.
I don't even know what I was gonna say, but yeah. I also don't know why I was so pressed about posting about it. I don't know why
I was so pressed about.
I don't know. So yeah, that was our first like. It was such a dumb thing to fight over, but we were like. I mean, how people
I was
really
like
going
mad too. Like it's like, why you gotta post something? I don't know. I'm just like I'm not the social media guy. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm doing this, it's like I've got to be more active and whatnot. So it's like, oh, it comes full circle. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, jeez. But no, yeah, that was our first fight, and I think it was key because just as married people, like even though you have so much in common, you're two totally different people with two totally different life experience. Like, so for those who are listening with audio, I'm doing trying to have visual for YouTube and stuff, and the cameras keep going out. Like, I have gigs in them, but they keep going out. So that's why there's like these awkward pauses, but you're doing it wrong. So, hey, whatever.
You're really going to keep this on audio?
Am I going to keep it on audio?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You're not going to cut this?
I don't know what I'm doing. What's wrong with this song?
Yeah, that one.
Oh my gosh. Like, why does it keep going out?
I don't know. Does one have more memory than the other?
Hey, bullshit. That was my battery. Oh.
Dang.
I fully charged it.
How long have we been talking?
Just a minute, but. Oh, yeah, I think my battery's dying.
Oh, and that one only has one. That's the new one or the old one?
That's the new one. I can't even see what battery this one's on. It doesn't even show me. Battery's still thinking on this one. So.
All right.
No, let's use this one. All right.
What were you saying?
I don't know. No, I think I remember. Yeah, sorry guys who are listening. Hopefully I can edit where it doesn't sound like too crazy. But yeah, that you were saying that I'm playing video games, you're washing dishes, and like I'm completely oblivious that you're planning my death.
Exactly.
So just communication is like very, very key. And again, it sounds like elementary stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, you ought to communicate in your marriage. But it's easier said than done, because your world revolves so much around you, as opposed to someone else. And then when you have a kid, it's like that makes it even more strenuous because you got someone else that is needing of your time and attention. So it's just one of those things. And there was like so many other things that we wanted to discuss, but it's like we're already at an hour. Like it just flies by, doesn't it?
I tell you, bro.
It just flies by. So this was the first one. We got a lot to learn, or I have a lot to learn when it comes to these stinking cameras. But
Marriage.
there's what?
And marriage.
Yes, marriage too. But it's a scary thought because I'm looking to do this as, I don't necessarily say a career, but as you get older and wiser, you know that it makes sense to have multiple streams of revenue. So this hopefully, by God's will, can become a stream of revenue, but it's just scary putting yourself out there because it leaves you open for critique and people and rejection. And that's why it's so important to, number one, be grounded in your faith, and then have, family and friends who can support you, because there's a lot that I'm going to do wrong. Like I said, the audio is going to be super choppy. The visual is going to be super choppy. I think that's the one that's still recording. I don't know. But throughout the whole thing, this is what I was especially learning from the last podcast, because even though I joked like only 5 people listen, it wasn't like this massive success, but it's like I can't measure success on like those type of variables. I've got to measure it on, am I going to be faithful to what God has given? And like I said, I've got the support of family and friends who've been with me, and hopefully you guys will get to meet them as the year goes. Get to see these wonderful people God has brought in my life, and like I said, just have real conversation, because I just can't stand superficial stuff. And it's like, it's gonna sound like I'm judging, which I'm not trying, but like I saw like clips, and you're gonna be like, what? Like for the new Love and Hip Hop New York, there's some people on there that I'm like, oh, I'm kind of curious. But it's like great production, but it's like, oh my gosh,
Trash
it's just
content.
like, oh my goodness. And don't get me wrong, like it's super like entertaining, but it's just like I want to be informed and entertained at the same time. So trying to find that balance.
Super entertaining. That's just me.
No. I'm not saying I find it entertaining, but there was one person in particular who I was kind of interested to see how everything played out. But it's just like these forced storylines and like
Exactly, over and over again.
So like the production is just incredible, but I'm a content guy. So trying to merge those two worlds will have a great production and great content. So hopefully that's what I can move. Because last time I was just using this daggone iPhone, and it was terrible. So hopefully when I get these cameras to work, that they'll work. But yeah, that's essentially what I'm trying to do. Just trying to have real open conversations about life and just be real with myself. That I don't have it all together. Like I said, I love Jesus, love the gospel, but how often am I actually sharing it with people? How often am I actually praying for people? I always love when someone says, yeah, I'm praying for you. No, you ain't. But and just reading my word. So I'm hoping to drop this the first of every month starting New Year's. And I always hate like New Year's resolutions suck because no one ever sticks to them. But you had a really legitimate concern when we were having the conversation about the podcast that, like I said, I want to have an entertainment aspect where I can be real with myself, and hopefully people can find some comic relief in that. But I think you were saying it shouldn't be just exposing flaws for the sake of exposing it, that there should be some growth and maturity that's involved. And that's truly the point that I want to make. So even though we're talking about, bruh, after we done here, we probably gonna watch, well, it's gonna be past her bedtime, so she might actually be asleep.
I got stuff to do.
Watch TV. but truly making an effort not to just be so consumed with media, but making time for ourselves. Now I don't know how that looks, but I definitely want to commit to that. And even though I was joking earlier, I think it would be really cool. Because if I'm doing an episode a month, it's going to be 12. So hopefully around this time, well, it's still November. Well, around this time next year, we can come back and see how we've done and trying to make more of an effort to not just be close in proximity, but close in relation. And I know that's like, how are you going to do this practically? You know, I don't know. But we're going to commit to it because we acknowledge that we spend a lot of time. Like, I know they have like this new thing for the iOS where it tells you like how much time you spend on your phone.
Right. Whether you ask or not.
Yeah.
It just right in your face.
I'm sure so many of us would be embarrassed about how much time we spend on our phones. But yeah, just making a conscious effort to connect emotion, because it's, again, it just sounds elementary, but it's so hard to actually do, especially with our schedules. We have to be very intentional about spending time together and not taking each other for granted. And like I said, I'll speak for myself. I've definitely done that wrong where I've taken you for granted.
I have to.
But we have a child who I'm sure misses us. And I think this was a cool first episode because I came in with a game plan, did not go according to how I planned it. But it is what it is, and I'm cool with that. So I wanted to pray beforehand. I prayed like my last podcast at the end. I'm not going to do that now, but I just thought I would bring up the fact that I didn't.
So just so we're clear, so everybody heard this, I'm going to be asked back. This is not going to be my only time here. Because we talked about the whole, like, you don't need me thing, but we didn't talk about, like, the background behind why I said that or anything like that. So I guess they'll just have to stay tuned.
Ooh, cliffhanger. And now, see, like, I need, like, a catchy ending to say, like,
really?
That's all, folks. You know,
You're going to decide this on the air.
On the air. You talk like this is radio. This is radio.
This is radio to me, okay?
And you talk about
Podcasting.
old people. You sound like I would tell like Elder Bell, be like, oh, you've got a radio show. Like, no, it's a podcast.
It feels like a radio show.
I suppose, but
I've been on radio before.
You what?
Did you not?
Huh?
Yeah.
Did you used to be on radio?
Not like I was promoting an event, but
When were you on the radio?
It was in high school. Yeah. In New York.
In New York?
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, learn new things every day.
You actually have like a nice voice. Like,
Thanks. After 6 years of marriage, you told me this.
No, you don't sound bad. Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna end this. So hopefully through
we're just gonna keep talking.
these months, I'll figure out like a really cool like catchphrase or something. I don't know. I have
You
no
sound
idea.
lame, bro.
How does that sound like?
I'll think of a cool catchphrase.
Not that it sound like a cool catchphrase. But now we gotta go get our kid.
Hopefully that's not the catchphrase.
Yo, my world don't stop when the beats commence. Said I'm climbing up this ladder just to get over this fence and run far, far away from the games people play. In this melancholy modern day music, Malay, touche. Pussycats with lives to spare that kick you know in your heart, nice as hell. Yeah, be aware, beware. I hate to see you less a liver or worse. Polar bear, winter time, catch the river. Now that's cold, and like that, now that's old. Didn't buy the last copy of this, now that's old. It's the pepper on your salt, my dudes, I grind it out. And the answer to the questions of life, I find it out. With that stress, I walk with access. Be he who Max says. With simple
Did you cut it right after that? How'd I do?
You did great.
You think? Are you
Yeah.
you're saying that?
No, you was good. Oh, we're still recording too.